Picture a cake, right? But with not a single crumb, no sponge, no flour, no layers to absorb frosting.
Just a really dense, like perfectly smooth suspension of dairy and sugar.
Exactly. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a document simply titled Cheesecake.pdf to uncover why this creamy dessert is such a universal comfort food for you.
Yeah, and we are also going to explore the basic mechanics of how you can build one without it, completely falling apart.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. Because unlike standard cakes, which rely on sponge layers and frosting, cheesecake gets its signature sweet, slightly tangy profile entirely from cream cheese.
Oh, absolutely. Because you are skipping the traditional flour-based sponge, the dessert has to rely completely on an emulsion of fats and proteins to hold its shape.
I mean, I kind of think of standard cakes as building a house with bricks and mortar. The sponge is the brick, the frosting is the mortar.
That makes total sense, yeah.
But a traditional cheesecake, made of just cream cheese, sugar, eggs, and a buttery biscuit crust, it's more like carving a solid, luxurious marble sculpture.
That is a great analogy. And what's fascinating here is how that simple base creates a uniquely dense yet silky texture. It perfectly balances the sweetness and that distinct tanginess.
Yeah, but because the structure is so unique, right, the method you use to create it totally dictates the final texture.
Right, which brings us to the two primary styles in the source. You've got your baked cheesecakes, which use eggs and slow baking for a richer, much firmer texture.
And then there are the no-bake versions. Those skip the oven entirely, they set in the refrigerator, and yield a lighter finish. But let me push back on that for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Is a no-bake cheesecake just like a beginner's shortcut? I mean, does it truly hold its own against the classic baked version?
Well, I definitely wouldn't call it a shortcut. They really both serve a purpose. I mean, no bake is ideal for a quick, low-effort dessert.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the baked version, that is what satisfies the craving for that deep, classic flavor.
Right, for the dense classic structure.
Yeah.
You really have to go with the traditional baked route.
Definitely. But if you're going to attempt the baked route, avoiding structural failure is incredibly crucial.
Oh, yeah. If you've ever pulled a baked cheesecake out of the oven and watched as a giant canyon splits right down the middle, you know how high the stakes are. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The dreaded cracked cheesecake. It is the bane of bakers everywhere.
It really is. The source gives us some critical tips to avoid it, like always use softened cream cheese so you avoid lumps.
Yes, and never overmix the batter after you add the eggs. That is huge.
Wait, really? Just because of the eggs?
Yeah, because whipping traps air bubbles inside your batter.
Oh, and trapped air causes cracks. Because when those bubbles hit the heat of the oven, they expand.
Exactly. The cake puffs up, and then as it cools down, it deflates and basically tears itself apart.
Which is why the guide stresses baking gently and cooling slowly.
Right, and using a water bath in the oven. It physically prevents the delicate egg proteins on the outer edges from overcooking or, curdling and splitting before the denser center has time to set.
It keeps the cake moist. Wow, that makes total sense.
It really does. And once you have that perfect base, you can start hacking the flavor. Like lemon is a super popular addition.
Because the bright citrus perfectly balances that dense cream cheese, right? It cuts through the dairy fats.
Exactly, so your taste buds don't get fatigued after 2 bites.
So what does this all mean? Well, it means homemade cheesecake is surprisingly easy once you respect the mechanics of how it sets.
Yeah, and it allows you to completely customize your sweetness and toppings.
Right, from fresh berries and mango to roasted nuts and cookie crumbs.
You really have total control over it.
Which leaves you with one final provocative thought. If a cheesecake is defined by a lack of sponge layers and relies entirely on a cheese-based custard setting over a biscuit crust, does it even belong in the cake family at all? Or did it just borrow the name to dominate the dessert table?